this idea of things start to add up. Like, what was for you? What was like what was the sign, I guess, of like, wait, I think I need to do something about this. What was that for you?
I mean, unfortunately for me, and I think for most of, people in our culture, it's like, hey, tough up, or man up, or whatever they say, they used to say. You don't really check up on yourself. So for me, it came to a point where I had to break down and completely lose, my stability to really be like, oh man, there's something wrong. Like, unfortunately, I had to like touch, the bottom of the hole, or the dark hole, to really feel like, oh, there's something that I need to check.
Okay, so you talked about like this breakdown that you had. Obviously we grew up in a culture where parents don't tell you about therapy. They don't tell you about talking about your feelings. So
right.
When that happened, what did you do?
I did everything. I did, like, when I saw myself not being able to move forward in anything, you do all that you can, really. So I explore therapy in different ways with different type of doctors. Like, there's like the typical family therapist. You have your good old psychologist, and you also have your psychiatrist. They do have a different approach.
What's the difference between those two?
Well, obviously the psychiatrist can prescribe you medicine if you need that.
Okay.
If you need that push, right? Okay. Depending on where you are on your, breakdown, basically, situation. Psychologist is more traditional, approach to it. They cannot prescribe medicine to you. And in my experience, the psychiatrists that I've had, therapy with, they are more, they have the more scientific approach, if you will. Unfortunately, there's a lot of psychologists and therapists out there that is like the typical, okay, tell me everything that you're feeling, how, like, it's the you show, right? Like, you tell me how you're feeling and all that, and they just write things down, and sometimes they don't even give you feedback, right?
Why is that, by the way? Do you know why they don't give you feedback sometimes?
Well, in my experience, it feels like they just want to hear where you're coming from and get to know you as much and as fast as possible, to be able to, like, really, after a couple of rounds, I'll say, like, even it could be months into them telling you, okay, then this is your route, or, like, these are the tools that we need to work on, and this is the exercises that you need to be doing, or the homework that you need to be doing. But they need that from you, right? And unfortunately, when you're deep in the mud, you need somebody to tell you need a lifesaver, right? So I didn't have the time or the patience to go through all this psychologists and therapists saying, oh, tell me everything about your life for like 3, 4, 5 sessions. I wanted answers, and I wanted resources now, right? So in my experience, psychiatrists can, I don't know why, but they can do that better and faster, in my experience again, right? Like, always from my perspective, right? From my lenses.
Right.
They got to the point really quickly. They even explained to me, or the feelings, or thoughts, and that process that is happening in your brain. Why is it happening in your brain? The chemical process of it, and all those type of, like, nerdy things that I love. And that really, like, helped me explain where my thoughts and feelings were coming from.
Can you explain a little bit about that to the public here? Because I think that's a really fundamental thing about.
And I don't mean I'm not a doctor.
She's not a doctor, but, like, what's a way that was helpful for you to understand it? Because I think that's
and I was gonna just say that I probably don't have the very proper words for it, but the way that I understood it is, like, in my case, and I feel like in many cases, sometimes when we're under a lot of stress and overwhelming situations, you go into this stage of fight or flight, right? Sometimes you shut down, sometimes you just run off, and that could become many things, right? Like, when you shut down, it's like you don't want to talk about the problem. You ignore the problem, including the person that is, around the problem. Okay. Or you fight, you discuss, you're like, you closed off, you put your walls up, and you're just in this mood of defensive, right? And so again, none of those things are good for any type of communication or solving issues. But that's where naturally your brain goes when you are under deep stress. So that means that across many years, or with one situation that was very traumatic to you, your brain goes into this survival mode, right? So that happens with PTSD people. That's happened with people that have really like deep mental health issues that unfortunately went through that very traumatic situation. Their brain is always working in that mode. Your whole body physically is always working under the stress mode. So when your brain is under survival mode, it's either fight or flight. You're literally fighting for your life. So that is definitely not the best way, to be functional in an everyday situation when you're always under stress and with your claws out.